Everybody knows that cardio is good for you, but the question is, how do we start? What are the best bang for our buck exercises? And who do we listen to? Again, if we're just talking about health and longevity, the simple answer is that something is better than nothing. Even taking small steps is going to give great returns. You don't know what cardio to do? Anything is better than nothing. More so, if we put my spin on things, which is all about cognitive overload, mentally speaking, a person gets overwhelmed by all the data that's out there, by all the recommendations, by all the best practices, everything that is available on social media, on podcasts, on Instagram, on TikToks, on YouTube, etc. Just think about how huge that task seems for you when you contemplate taking responsibility for something like this as well. And, where would you start? And then looking at that J curve where we see diminishing returns, just a little bit, we get great results, and a lot more, we get poor results. What do we do if we just want health and a longer health span? I started smoking when I was 14 years old, and I thought it would make me look cool. And as I got older, I started smoking more and more until eventually it was 30 cigarettes a day. Can you believe it? 30 cigarettes a day. I got so bad that I used to wake up in the middle of the night to have a cigarette, a little bottle with water next to my bed as an ashtray. It took me 2 years when I was 26 years old to quit smoking. I started and stopped and started and stopped several times over until finally it stuck. I quit. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I was trying to quit smoking, I was never really invested in quitting until one specific experience: running for the bus. I was in London at the time and the bus was just in front of me and I had to run 10 seconds maybe. I got on the bus and it took what seemed like forever to catch my breath again. Just to feel like I wasn't going to die and my heart wasn't going to jump out of my chest.
We're all going to die.
So honestly, I was so ashamed of myself as a 26-year-old man at that point that I made the decision to quit smoking. And just quitting smoking was a huge difference. And I didn't really think about cardio because I didn't like it. Who likes cardio? It's quite a strange thing to say, I like cardio. But more and more over the years, I started seeing benefits. Hiking with friends or playing frisbee in the park or even just running upstairs. I just noticed that if I was more cardio fit, everything was more fun and less of a pain in the ass. So, 3 years ago, I was looking down the barrel of my 40th birthday and I decided that it was time for me to take responsibility for my cardio health, right? So what did that mean? Well, that meant that I was going to educate myself. I was going to deep dive into the data. I wanted to master the information. I was hesitant to do this as when I normally go and invest myself in a topic, I invest myself very deeply and it's tough to just do a little bit. We dive in. People like me, we dive in. So it's something that I'm working on. But the literature I saw and the initial tests that I did led me onto one famous guy, enter Dr. Peter Attia. So if you're not familiar with Dr. Attia, he runs a clinic that tries to optimize for longevity. In recent years, he released the book Outlive, where he outlines his formula for living as long and as healthily as possible, extending your lifespan, extending your health span as well. Now, at this point in time, I was reading loads on Zone 2 training, what's called threshold training, where you're doing most of your time in Zone 2. So that's exactly what I did and something that Peter Attia talks about as well. And they say for 6 months you should try this. So every week I did 3 exercise sessions on a stationary bike wearing the Polar H10 heart rate strap. And I was just sitting in Zone 2 for 30 to 40 minutes at a time watching a movie. Absolute boredom. I was so bored. But I forced myself to do it for a year. Now, my metric to see whether it worked or not was going to be a 5-kilometer run. So I had done one at the time of the start of my journey. So how do you think that went? Because I ran a 5K for my birthday in the October of that year with my friend Skip.
What's that number 2 priority in life, kids? Coffee. Physical health. Get after it.
10 months of Zone 2 training, my time wasn't even better or the same. It wasn't even the same. It was worse. My time was worse. Just a few minutes, but I didn't feel better, nor did I enjoy my time. So, okay, another year. another training protocol. So I decided to work on this idea of just doing more, right? Just increase the volume. If I wanted to improve my running, do more running. So I started doing more running. I started with just 5 kilometers every week. At the beginning of the year, it was terrible. It was like a lot of 10 to 15 minute runs just to build up my conditioning and my tolerance. And, I was exhausted after 10 minutes. 2 months later, I was running a 5K every Saturday. It was tough. And then maybe like a 10 to 15 minute session during the week as well, depended. But by the end of the year, I was running at least a 40-minute 5 kilometer during the week. On the weekend, I was running an hour, which was about a 7 kilometer for the one morning. And then the other morning, another 40 kilometer another 30-minute 5K, like 40-minute 5K. All the while I was checking my Garmin for a change in my estimated Vo2 Max measurements. And I must say that the amount of time that I spent running was a lot, but I felt good. I was like, oh, okay, this feels good. I feel healthy. My resting heart rate was low, but I just couldn't justify the amount of time I spent running. Once again, I timed myself for 5 kilometer at the end of that year to see if my time did improve. Unfortunately, it was about 30 seconds faster, So if an entire year of training for 30 seconds faster on a 5K, it's not what I wanted to achieve. So at the end of the year, again, I decided time for a change. At this point, I found the research on vigorous exercise and how it's more important for longevity. So I was like, well, I'm interested more in longevity than I am in running marathons. So I decided to do sprint protocols, Tabata, high intensity interval training, etc. I started off just doing what was manageable. 20 seconds on, 1 minute of rest, repeatable until I had done about 20 minutes of work. This made me feel great, to be honest with you. It was really tough, but it was enjoyable and manageable and also time efficient. Now, okay, let's talk about some data. Dr. Rhonda Patrick says that the best form of high intensity training is called the Norwegian 4x4 protocol. It's basically 4 minutes of intense cardio followed by 4 minutes of rest, repeated 4 times. So there is a very famous meta-analysis that talks about sprint training protocols in which and which ones are the best. And it's very interesting to say the least. So I started doing these, and 4 months later, I got my Vo2 Max Test done. Now, I don't think that I have felt better about my capacity to endure even slow, steady state cardio. Just to say, I feel great. And the routine is incredibly manageable as well. And my Vo2 Max Test came back the best number that I've ever been given by any kind of Vo2 Max estimates. So when I was running, it was all the Garmin stuff, and they estimated. Then I switched over to Apple Watch. They estimated my Vo2 Max as well. And now the legitimate Vo2 Max Test. So I believed in this so much that when a friend of mine asked for advice to help him increase his cardio in preparation for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, I pointed him at this very protocol. Now, he's a very technical guy, but he told me that his weakness in his game is his cardio. When he rolls with guys who are bigger than him and more athletic, for example, like ex-rugby players, he feels like he can barely hang on. And by the end of the session, he is completely exhausted. So a month into this protocol, and I think he was doing 1 or 2 sessions a week, he was already seeing major benefits, telling me that he was very comfortable with these guys. And at the end of the roll, that he still had gas in his tank. Now think about that for a second. He still had gas in the tank. Like, what? So now that I've shared some ideas and my experiences, I'm going to make 3 recommendations for anyone who is looking to either start looking after your cardio or just to improve your current cardio situation. So number 1, the study that shows that any sprint interval training will have a beneficial effect in just 4 weeks. So just by starting, you're going to improve. And if you're starting from 0, be kind to yourself. Don't just jump into the most intensive protocols that you can find. Take it slow, take it easy, and try to test out what you feel is challenging. You will build it up with time, and make sure that you consult with a professional. If you are unsure or if you're coming out of some form of ailment, because vigorous exercise can sometimes do damage. If you are not ready for it, it will wreak all kinds of havoc on you. So number 2 is to test before you start, and then test again after a period of time, say 3 months or so. So what kind of tests can you take that can give you a good measuring stick? Well, there is a Vo2 Max called the Cooper test. And you just basically run as far as you can for 12 minutes. You punch your numbers into a calculator, I'll attach it below, and it will tell you an estimated Vo2 max. And okay, great. So if you would rather do some kind of metabolic assessment, you can go and get one done, which includes Vo2 max, and in some cases includes lactate threshold as well, but it can cost you around 100 to 150 bucks. Okay, so that's point number 2. So at this point in time, I will also share that the study that I'm talking about mentions that you will get optimal results by training intervals that are a minimum of 2 minutes of work for at least 15 minutes at a time, and you will expect results between 4 to 12 weeks. All right. So number 3 is to make sure that whatever form of cardio you choose, assault bike, swimming, rowing, whatever form you choose, it doesn't matter. Make sure that your emotions are in it. Make sure that it's fun for you. Make sure that it's interesting. If you grind through it or you don't enjoy it, your chances of success nosedive. If you like it, when you start adapting, you will enjoy it even more, skyrocketing your consistency and therefore your results as well. Personally, and because of a discussion with my wife about sprinting and energy system, despite what the science points at, I will be making my sprint intervals a lot shorter. So I'm looking to play with 30-second intervals and keeping it to about 15 minutes minimum per sprint session. But instead of keeping my sprint intervals at zone 4, like 85% of my heart rate, I'll be taking it all the way to zone 5. I'm just playing around with it for 3 months and I'll review how I feel. It's that whole idea of like, what do you prefer? What do you find works better for you? So a word to anyone who is introducing a new routine, starting any habit, is just about thinking, what is +1 on what I'm currently doing? If you are literally doing nothing, then +1 on nothing is literally anything. If you're already doing some form of cardio, then perhaps +1 is introducing a sprint day. So I'm going to do 1 sprint day per week, a minimum of 15 minutes, and taking it to about 35 minutes maximum. I also want to do 1 sprint session midweek, but a shorter one, like perhaps a Tabata session. So I highly recommend looking at the Tabata playlists on Spotify. They're fantastic, fun, I love them. I'll put a link down below to the playlist. So I also enjoy running in my area. So I think that I also want to do 1 long run, maybe an hour long on Sundays, but like really relaxed and just taking in the sights. Remember that all of this is what I can manage with my time, my energy, my budget. And this should be able to change with my needs and my preferences. Well, my time budget changed, my energy budget changed. Okay, so I'm not an exercise guru by any stretch of the imagination, but I deal with cognitive overload. And it is incredibly overwhelming when you have to sort out your exercise and start doing cardio. Where can you possibly start that isn't going to overwhelm you with information? And more to the point is, how do you remain consistent and paying attention to your feelings that come up and block you from going back time and time again? So here are a few starting principles for you. Number 1, the form of cardio you choose is always something that you're drawn to. Number 2, just starting off with a single session a week of just 10 minutes is better than nothing. And with time, that session can grow into an hour or to multiple sessions per week. Set the habit, not the standard. Because as the habit automates, the standard will naturally elevate. Okay, I like that. The habit automates, the standard elevates.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
You're so funny.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny.
Number 3, intervals are your friend. So when you start, you don't need to do a whole session at the same pace. You're just not used to it. Take breaks, start up again. Just like exercises in the gym, don't think 30 minutes of running, think 3 sets of 8 minutes with 2 minutes of rest in between, or whatever suits you. Like go until you get tired, make a note of that time, stop, take a break, start again, try and go for that same period of time. Okay. So that's a thought for this video. I'm out of here. And remember that if you're feeling overwhelmed, slow down your thinking. And if you're interested in slowing down your thinking and taking a deeper look at your cognitive overload, I've included the link down below to the Neuro Resiliency program, which if you're a viewer of this, you'll get a discount if you click on the link down below. All right, and start your journey. Enjoy.